Well, the Boston Celtics had another game two disaster. It's the same thing that we saw against the Heat. Game one, they come out, they get you a comfortable win. Game two, they just lose to a team that they're clearly much more talented than. What did you take away from this?
They do that Celtics thing, man. That's why you got to give them a Boston game. You always got to give them one, Carson.
Can't
I'm
ever pick them to sweep. Got to go five,
I'm
always.
I'm hoping this is the one and we don't get another nasty one like this. I'll save my hate on the Celtics for a little bit later. We'll go positive to start this one out. The first guy I want to give a big shout out to is your boy Evan Mobley, man. Evan Mobley played an awesome first half. And I said during our show, our last show, I said Evan Mobley was the guy I was looking for to step up for Cleveland. He was the guy I pointed my finger at and said, if there's going to be somebody that plays better in this game, that is going to have the opportunity and the ability, it was him. And immediately out of the, from tip, he was awesome. First quarter, he puts up 11 points, 3 boards, 4 assists. He scored or assisted on 19 of Cleveland's 30 first quarter points. And the biggest thing was he wasn't passing on looks the defense gave him. He's got back-to-back big buckets on Al Horford, dude, and he's confidently shooting the ball. Luke Cornett drops really severely on him on a shot from the top of the key. Bang. He misses his second three that he takes, but guess what? He was wide open, didn't hesitate, immediately put the rock up. I also loved he rolled hard on another one. Mitchell hit Mobley for an easy pick-and-roll dunk. He finished another lob in transition after stopping Jaylen Brown at the rim. And then he had a nice lefty finish over Jaylen Brown. Like, this is all hands on deck. The Boston Celtics are so much more convincingly better than the Cleveland Cavaliers that, for Cleveland, it can't be any guys taking a break, taking a night off. It's got to be Mobley. It's got to be Garland. It's got to be LeVert. It's got to be everybody. And those guys answered the call tonight. Mobley wasn't just scoring, though. Like, he playmaked really well. He had 5 assists in the first half. He had a beautiful kick on a LeVert cut. He had another kick later in the game out to Garland where he was double-teamed on the low block. And I think they can weaponize this more moving forward, Carson. Mobley had a lot of instances where he was open in the middle of the floor with space, where all 4 players are out on the perimeter, and Mobley is isolated with the guy in the middle of the floor, traditionally Horford, because he's the big that the Celtics play. I think in looks like this, I might take more possessions where I go to Mobley in the middle of the floor and try to get guys cutting off of him or, just try to get him a look in single coverage. It may not be your best look because Mobley has his games where he's aggressive and he's hitting, and then he has his other games where he looks like a baby deer and he just can't hit anything. But he has such a strong length advantage against all of the Boston bigs, right? This was a game where I really felt like Boston missed Kristaps Porzingis for a lot of reasons. I'll get into that later, but in the one-on-one matchup against Mobley, Mobley's just longer than Al Horford. He's just longer than Xavier Tillman. He's Luke Cornett, it's a little closer, but it's Luke Cornett. He's just a bit better athlete than Cornett. I think Mobley has a big advantage and could be the guy that I go to look for more. But like I said, it wasn't just him. LeVert gives you 21 in this game. You kind of laughed when I said, I want more LeVert minutes after game 1. And I was like, yeah, you just need creators, man. And he finally answers the call. 21 points, 6 boards, 3 assists on 9 of 17 shooting. In these playoffs, Carson, he's given you 7 points on 47% true shooting. You just can't have that. LeVert is an X factor. Like I said, man, all hands on deck. LeVert put his hand in the middle and answered. And Darius Garland did enough. Garland gives you 14 points, 4 assists. He knocks down 4 threes from behind the arc. He's the guy I want more from, Carson. If I'm Cleveland, if I'm going to hang around in this series, if I'm going to linger around on Boston, Garland is the guy that needs to be even better. Good game from Garland. He hit his threes. I think he still needs to be even more aggressive as a scorer. There's this one possession in the first quarter that you can go back and watch with him and Evan Mobley, or actually 2 possessions, where he plays hot potato with Mobley. And there's this one bad one in transition where Garland gets all the way to the rim, and it's an easy layup opportunity. You put that shot up 10 times out of 10, and instead he dribbles under the basket, dribbles back out, kicks it back out to Mobley. Mobley gets doubled. He kicks it back out to Garland, who is wide open in the corner. Garland doesn't shoot the 3. He pump fakes, takes a sidestep dribble, and dribbles it back out. When you get those looks, I just need Garland to take them, man. He needs to be more aggressive. If it's shot under the rim, if it's a good look, period, Garland needs to shoot it. I felt like he's been a little passive in these games. but he did enough. Hits his threes, does enough to get Cleveland over the hump. And then there's a couple other guys I want to give a shout out to. Tristan Thompson did his thing in non-Mobley minutes. Shout out. God, he has got a putrid game offensively, man. You tweeted it out talking about his finishes at the rim, but he matched up really physically really well. And there's two plays. The other guy, last guy I want to give a shout out for Cleveland, JB Bickerstaff in the fourth quarter, man. They open this up with two beautifully designed plays. They go to Thompson on an elbow post up, and Thompson throws a dime behind the defense to Strus because JB has his head turned. That's a big-time bucket. And then on the next possession down, they go to Tristan Thompson with a DHO three at the top of the key to Donovan Mitchell, and he just bangs a three. But what I really loved about this play design wasn't the fact that Mitchell hits the three. It's the fact that by using a DHO with Tristan Thompson, the offense drew Xavier Tillman out of the paint all the way up past the free throw line, which in turn, if Mitchell was to miss that three, Thompson rolled hard, would have been the only guy able to get a rebound. And so you're either getting yourselves an extra possession or he's getting a wide open look at the rim. So all of those guys, I just want to give a big shout out to, man. Mobley, Garland, they can't get this done without Donovan Mitchell. I don't want to understand it, but Donovan Mitchell goes crazy in the third quarter. 29 points total on the game, 16 points in the third, 23 second half points, constantly getting downhill, draining threes, playmaking for his teammates. But it's all the other guys too, man. Cleveland needs a hellacious effort from everybody every single night, and they did it tonight. Mitchell, Garland, LeVert, Mobley, Bickerstaff, it was all hands on deck, man, and Cleveland does enough to get this win. But I was just really more impressed with the confidence, the aggression, and the play calling, man. It was just a much better game from Cleveland offensively.
Absolutely. This Cavs team looked like what we've hoped for, what the very good Cleveland Cavaliers would look like, and we haven't seen that very consistently throughout these playoffs. The secondary creation from Garland and LeVert was much better. This wasn't like a huge box score Garland game, but he makes 3 triples in the third quarter. I thought it was big to have that infusion of offense alongside Donovan Mitchell. LeVert, Logan, you mentioned he had been so bad, but we all know Karis LeVert is an all-time dude in the park. If you're playing threes, you're playing ones, you watch him and you go, Jesus, he is tough. The change in pace, he's got the ball on a string, deep bag. And in this game, he was really just getting downhill, man. He's shifty. He's tough to stay in front of. A couple ugly misses, but he aimed 21, and they needed that juice, and they need that juice going forward. And then Mobley was great. He was aggressive in the paint. His touch was decent. He attacked a couple mismatches, got behind Horford in drop on a couple of rolls, or Horford in a higher drop, I should say, and was awesome as a passer, spotting cutters, hit ahead passes in transition, and he made several fantastic defensive plays at the rim. So Mobley has been pretty bipolar in this playoff run. Now, there haven't been that many offensive highs, but there have been some real offensive highs. The first quarter of game 1 against the Magic, it's whoa, he's confidently stepping into threes. He's attacking mismatches. This was reminiscent of that. He's not the most skilled offensive player. His touch, period, point blank, is an issue. His lack of real fluidity and a bag offensively, all these things are issues. His inconsistency as a jump shooter. But it's good to see him be aggressive, and they needed that Evan Mobley, and it felt like that was a clear point of emphasis for them coming into this game, was just people other than Donovan get us a good shot. And they actually managed to do that, which hasn't been the case. And even the supporting wings were solid offensively. Okoro was running the floor hard in transition, cutting well. Max Strus had a couple nice drives, had a nice cut. Everybody did their job for Cleveland, and we really haven't been able to say that, especially offensively, in a while. So I do want to give props to all those guys. But Donovan Mitchell is just playing at a ridiculous level right now. This is a guy who post All-Star break had really struggled. We were worried about his knee. He was very inconsistent and spotty through the first 5 games of the Magic series. And then over his last 4 games, dude, is dropping 38 a night on 62% true shooting and is just completely unbothered by this Boston defense that we know has some of the best perimeter personnel specifically in the league. And he goes on these stretches where you look at him and you're just like, this dude has to be top 10, right? I mean, it's ridiculous the ceiling that he can reach. Now, I don't think he's consistently there enough to say he's top 10. I definitely don't think Donovan Mitchell is a top 10 player. But the peaks that we see, we've talked about this, just the volume of pull-up threes that he shoots, when those are really falling, Then he pairs that with this incredible driving ability. And you see that in the third quarter where, yeah, he makes some ridiculous tough jumpers, but then he hits this filthy spin move. He hits a Euro and has a beautiful touch finish. Like, just the explosiveness, the ball handling, the body control, the footwork, the variety of moves that he has as a driver. It's just spectacular. He's been the best player on the floor by a mile through 2 games of this series. And I really didn't think there was an amount by which he could outplay Jayson Tatum and the Cavs could win this series, certainly, probably even a couple of games. And it was good to see the supporting cast step up and allow that to happen. And they start trapping him as this game goes along, and he gets a little bit overwhelmed by that initially. They have to call a timeout, and they're getting the ball out of his hands. But I thought that he started creating some solid advantages against those looks as well. So the man is just doing his thing. He's playing at an extremely high level offensively, playing much better than Jayson Tatum right now. And that's the ceiling that you get with Donovan Mitchell. And having a shot creator of that caliber is really a special thing for any team. And Lord knows that Cleveland needs it, and he's delivering.
Yeah, again, I can't emphasize it enough. This is a game without Jared Allen, too. Jared Allen's still not out there, and Cleveland manages to get this one done. Like, Donnie was playmaking his ass off, too. He's been awesome these playoffs, man. And there's a difference, too, man. I really thought that with how Cleveland hung around in the first half and the other guys produced, Donovan Mitchell had more energy for the second half. Like, I think, one, it invigorated him that his teammates were doing so much. Like, I think it gave him life. Like, hey, I don't have to just go score 70 points today. Like, we can win with the other guys doing their thing. But also, he was so fresh in the third quarter, it allowed him to go, you know what? I'm going to take this game over. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these boys in a coffin. And it really is. It's the fact that he can get to the 2 most efficient shots in basketball with such ease. He's an elite pull-up shooter, jump shooter when he's on, and those shots are really valuable from behind the arc. They are virtually unstoppable. Like I talked about that Tristan Thompson DHO. That is a tough shot, man. Coming full speed off of a handoff right into a jump shot with 2 defenders in your face, that's a tough look, and he just gets it done. And
wasn't that the one that he banked in?
He banked it in, but hey, man, bank's open.
So, yeah, a little bit of luck there maybe, but he did bank
bank's open, bro. He found it. Like, but it's the fact that he can get to these shots so easily, man, just rises and fires over everybody. And he's got this crazy burst, crazy athleticism, great in the lane. And when he wants to, he's a good playmaker. Like, the Cavs do need this version. They got him. They got everybody else, too. We'll get on to the drubbing. I'm not going to be mean to Jayson Tatum today, okay? I was mean to Jayson Tatum after game 1. And you know what? I don't put this loss on Jayson Tatum. For the most part, I thought he played a pretty good game. When these Celtics are having these shooting lulls and having these, problematic stretches, Tatum and Brown were getting downhill. They were backing guys down. Tatum was finishing through contact. And, he doesn't convert everything, but for the most part, I was impressed that he just didn't stop, that he was always getting downhill. Like, to me, this loss to Cleveland was not a Jayson Tatum problem. It is an inherent Boston Celtics problem, and it is the same problem that I've had with Boston for a couple of years now. They are the most jump shot heavy team in basketball, and coming out of the break, the Cavs shot 7 of 10 from behind the arc, and Boston shot 0 of 7. There was a stretch in this game, Carson, where the Celtics they miss 16 of 17 threes. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. They end this game 8 of 35 from behind the arc, while Cleveland ends 13 of 28. And this is an inexcusable loss to me, Carson. They have been touted as, one of the premier teams in all of basketball, the team to beat, especially at home. They're 37-4 at home. They showed this at the front of the broadcast. I don't know if you caught this one. They have 19 wins by 25 or more points this year. That is the most in NBA history. And when you were talking about a talent disparity this big between Cleveland, who was without Jared Allen, and sure, Boston's without Kristaps Porzingis, that does not equate, man. That is not equal, okay? And so I know you're without a key player, too.
You didn't even mention Dean Wade.
You're funny,
Respect
man.
Dean Wade.
You're so funny, man. I don't know what it is with you. It's not Dwayne Wade. It's not D Wade. You know that? It's Dean.
What's up? Yeah, the guy out of Marquette. The guy out of Marquette, the high flyer. The guard, there's number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a ball player, that guy.
It's not him, right? They've got Dean Wade.
Huh?
Okay. Well, yeah, the Celtics without Dean Wade too, man. It's a big miss. But I'm not going to cut the Celtics any slack. Like I said, 37-4 at home, and they've already got 2 home losses in these playoffs, man. And I do think they missed Porzingis. Yes, I think it's obvious. But the thing I'm not going to excuse them for is getting out-rebounded by 13, man. Y'all got killed on the glass. There's miscommunications defensively. There's lapses in effort. That's my thing, man, is Boston is always going to be susceptible to these type of games because they like shooting threes. And the one thing that I've said consistently, Carson, I don't know if I've said it on this show. I've said it to my friends watching these games. When you are not shooting the ball well, and Boston is playing defense well, like this one was tough because Cleveland just smacked them in the mouth out of the third quarter. It's quicksand, right? You're just immediately going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Boston, when things are going good or they need to switch it up, I think they need to slow the offense down, Carson, and just slow the pace down. Move the ball a couple times around the arc, get it down to the low block. They just always want to shoot any open look. And sometimes I'm asking them, can we slow the pace down? Can we move the ball a couple of times? Just swing it, reset. Find a mismatch. Find something. Don't just settle for a three. It wasn't even Tatum tonight, man. I can't even be mad at Tatum. I can't even be mad at Jaylen Brown. I'm not putting this on these guys at all. I'm putting this on the collective Celtics problem. The fact that they like to play fast, that they like to shoot a ton of threes, that they like to take their foot off the pedal and lollygag defensively, that the fact that they like to not crash the glass. It's all the other things in this game. And that is still what leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth about picking them as the team to win the NBA Finals. It's games like this, man. They're going to give us one of these in every series. But I think my takeaway for the Celtics after this game, Carson, I think they need Kristaps Porzingis to win the title. And if Kristaps Porzingis is not going to be healthy, I'm not picking this team to do anything. I will pick this team to lose in maybe 5 games. I thought maybe they could withstand being without KP. This is a game that reinforces that they desperately need him.
I've never thought that they could win the title without KP. I've thought that they can get through the East, and I still do think that they will get through the East. And that's the thing with Boston. We have these strong reactions because the standard is so high, because we know that they are such a great basketball team, so overwhelmingly talented. This is frustrating. I did think this one said a lot about the Cavs, and also part of this, Logan, is just the shooting variance, which, yes, is a downside of being so reliant on your catch and shoot threes and on your pull-up threes as well. And we know that that's the reality for Boston. At the same time, you mentioned the 19-25 plus point wins. Why is that, Logan? Why do they have that extremely high ceiling? Because they shoot and they make a ton of threes. And for the most part, they are a great three-point shooting team. This is a game where they're awful. And that's going to happen to any team at some point when you rely this much on your three-point shooting. And that's why Boston tends to drop one game every series. That and lapses in defensive effort. But I don't want to overreact. I don't think they're in any jeopardy in this series. They just had a really, really bad shooting game, and they're never going to win like that. I thought Tatum's process was better in this game. It is interesting, Logan, how much more flack you catch when your team loses, kind of regardless of your individual performance. I was pleased with how much more he was attacking Mitchell and Garland with physicality in this game. If he got a mismatch, he was going at those dudes. He was running the floor hard in transition. He was going to the cup. Now, he had some issues finishing against Mobley, who was phenomenal defensively. He still kind of got stood up on a couple of post-ups and isolations by Max Strus, and he settled there. But compared to game 1, I thought he clearly played better. Even without a great shooting night, he gets to the line a bunch, and so he's able to have a more efficient, productive scoring night. This was really about the shooting just being way off, everybody off from beyond the arc. And then there was some defensive moments where I was frustrated with them. Their transition defense was poor. They let Cleveland get their most transition points in a game in over a month. In the third quarter, I thought a lot of it was Donovan Mitchell just doing some incredible shot making. I didn't really have an issue with how they guarded him. I did think that they let Garland walk into some pull-up threes twice. They're in a deep drop. Garland's a great pull-up shooter. Above
Tatum,
all else, he's a great pull-up three-point shooter. They had another one where there's just a flat-out defensive miscommunication, and so he's wide open. They fell asleep off ball on a couple of cuts. It wasn't a good defensive game. It was a terrible shooting game. That is the formula for Boston losing these stinkers against teams that they're way more talented than.
That's my problem with the Celtics too, dude. Is it's can there be one game where you aren't shooting well from behind the arc, and I get that grit and that dog and that intensity that you want it and you're going to fight a little more. Like, I think you're right. When the Celtics shoot this poorly, they are not going to win. But my issue is that when we have these lapses in shooting and you're not hitting your shots, where's the fight on the other end, fellas? Can I get a little that I want it. I want it. And it's like the Celtics have coasted through so many basketball games this season and have had the luxury of just sitting that they don't know how to act in these tight environments. And that's what scares me about Boston is that when it is nitty gritty, when it's nasty, when it's in these clutch moments and when you got to fight a little harder, when you got to want it a little more, I don't know if Boston can step up to task. And that's kind of where I'm at with Boston. It's where I've been with Boston for about a year or two now, man. It's frustrating. I don't even like Boston. As a matter of fact, I quite dislike Boston because of this. But it's frustrating, man. It is frustrating as a basketball fan.
Your standard is Minnesota, and that's where this loss does matter, even if it doesn't really matter in the scope of this series or whatever. Look at who you're going to have to beat, probably. Look at what they're doing every single night. Look at the physicality and the intensity that they come with. Look at their floor compared to your floor. Look at what they are doing to far superior competition. That's where you get on Boston. It is the same old things that are frustrating. And no, it won't matter this series. And no, it won't matter in the next series. But in the finals, there's a reason that this team can win 64 games and they can have one of the best point differentials we've ever seen and have this overwhelming talent. And I'm probably still gonna pick them to lose in the finals. It's a high bar, but it is stuff like this. It is the inconsistency. It is the volatility. That's what these game twos against these inferior teams show us more than anything else.